Let them know we don't play. They live like life's a party, but it's really like a breakaway. Meditate, focus your attention on your better days. You know what I'm talking about. Don't let these slimy narcissists, antichrist out there turn your eye. Freedom of speech is actuality. That's why the truth must spread by word of mouth, word of mouth. It's all according to the code. Damn Illuminati with my mind, body, and my soul. That's why they snatching bodies, everybody in the Hollywood Grove. Deception is a hobby, switching roles with the auto clone. Let me turn on my auto hoax.
Alright, we are live 3/17/2024. This is Infinite Plane Radio, open phones for open minds. It is 505-349-0420 if you want to call in. The title of today's live stream, Kate Middleton is dead. Taylor Swift headed to the Bermuda Triangle. Now, I don't know if either of those are true, but they are coming from the internet, basically. Taylor Swift going into the Bermuda Triangle is actually an internet prophecy, and it may or may not come true. We don't know yet. We're still waiting for news. And Kate Middleton, supposedly she's not dead, and it was just a bad Photoshop touch-up that's been misconstrued as a cover-up. But if she was really dead, wouldn't they put a little more work into that? This is the type of work we saw, for example, at Sandy H, which made that entire thing so suspect. Terrible special effects. We'll give people a few minutes to show up here, joined by Airto, Ted Stryker, Pete Trippa, Matt X, Frank Murr, Mango Penguins. Awesome. Got a comment from Luis Ortiz on 313's live stream. He says, outside of Mark Passio, there's no one dissecting these psyops to the degree you are. I salute you. Mostly everyone else is controlled opposition. The way you break it down is authentic, genuine, logical, and easy to understand. Not sure if you're familiar with Mark Passio from What on Earth is Happening. You should check his work out. If anybody has any links, I'll definitely take a look at Mark Passio if you want to suggest something. The main topic today in the mainstream news, of course, is the bloodbath thing. Finally, after 8 years waiting for the storm, waiting for Trump to say, okay, finally we can kill all the bad guys in the deep state, he's finally saying it, that there's going to be a bloodbath. But now they're insisting he's taking it out of or it's been taken out of context, which it probably has. I think you could argue it has been. But my point of it is, for 8 years, the MAGAs and the QAnoners have been saying that he's not being literal, he's delivering dog whistles, he's communicating double messages, and now when he's finally saying that he wants a bloodbath, they're saying no, he doesn't want a bloodbath. But anyway, let me play this clip from ABC News spreading the bloodbath hoax. And hoax is trending because this actually is a hoax. I think when he said bloodbath, he was referring to a figurative bloodbath having to do with maybe the auto industry or something, but it wasn't about the nation would suffer a bloodbath if he's not reelected. But that's how it's been taken. I even heard this on NPR today. Trump says if he's not elected, there's going to be a bloodbath. Let me go ahead and play this clip so you can get an idea of the tone.
Bruce in for Lindsay Davis. We begin tonight with the race for the White House and former President Trump's campaign now on the defensive after his fiery rhetoric at a rally in Dayton, Ohio on Saturday night. Trump warning while discussing the economy that there would be a, quote, bloodbath if he is not reelected in November. This after the former president kicked off the event.
Note his hat has the 45-47 9/11 encoded into it. I'll have to go check on JL26. I believe he was talking about this because it was in Ohio, which has a lot of significance to this particular narrative thread about Trump and the 9/11ing of his head. They're not going to crash a plane into his head, but they're going to do some kind of grievous head wound psyop pretty soon, and 9/11 is just stamped right there on the side. So it's the same directors. They're going to 9/11 his head. They're going to do something in order to create this martyr situation. I'm not sure how it all plays out, but we've been reading the predictive programming, which you can do. If we were aware of how this all worked in the years leading up to 9/11, we could have been pretty well apprised of what was about to go down. Yeah, thank you, Brandon. The bloodbath was about cars from Mexico and China. And of course, out of context, you could make it sound like he's saying there's going to be a bloodbath. But the thing is, the left is insinuating that's what he really meant, or they're suggesting that he's insinuating that this soundbite actually articulates what he means to do if he's not reelected. And all this time, the nonners have been waiting for the bloodbath to be called out, and now that he's finally doing it, it's just kind of odd how they're kind of backing away from it. Like, no, he didn't mean that. This is from a gossip tabloid. Ghislaine Maxwell looks great as she runs Florida prison's half marathon, does yoga and Pilates ahead of March appeal. So just a heads up, there's going to be some kind of thing with Ghislaine Maxwell. And this is all old news, but Ghislaine Maxwell had a thing and a fling with JFK Jr. back in the 90s. So it's kind of strange how the bad guy, the villain, the bad girl, this cohort to Jeffrey Epstein was so close to so many of the heroes of the story. JFK Jr., many pictures with Donald Trump. In fact, there's a photo of Ghislaine Maxwell hanging out with Elon Musk at some Vanity Fair or Vogue, some kind of magazine thing. Have you all seen that one? He claims that it was a photo bombing. He claims that he didn't know she was there, that she just kind of sneaked in. Although she claims that they actually had a conversation about how the internet would destroy everybody. In fact, here's the article for reference. Ghislaine Maxwell and Elon Musk once chatted. Okay, this again was at a Vanity Fair party, and they chatted about what she said would be the need to, quote, destroy the internet. Yep, Ghislaine Maxwell asked Elon Musk to destroy the internet. After suggesting that, of course, asking him, is it possible to remove yourself from it entirely? So this is really intriguing considering the whole story of Ghislaine Maxwell, and did she have foreknowledge that this was going to be the end of their reign? But I'm still not convinced that any of this is more than just political theater. Thank you, Multi-Seed Dagger. We at IPS appreciate the support. Duis in Paris says, working today, so I'll just have to listen along. Yeah, I'm making a habit of arriving here at the office earlier and earlier, and I'm trying to also be here in the mornings. There's just so much work to be done. I have a stack of unsold books, and I'm preparing to do my first live book reading. I'm inviting certain key guests, and it should be interesting. It should be useful. The whole purpose is we are offering an application of skepticism towards media that's never really been applied before. This is actually a radically new way of addressing mediation itself, and it's not something that the controllers of mass media want you to have. They want you to be susceptible to their mind viruses. But I have a large stack of these Autohoaxology 101 paperbacks. In fact, I have a limited number I set aside for anybody who wants one. You can get it at Ko-Fi. I'll put a link in the chat. But they're all going to be sold through Amazon from here on out. So you can maybe get one now directly from the store, and I can ship these out tomorrow. But they're on Amazon now. So that's going to be the handling the brunt of the work for me from now on. Although they will be my supplier. I've tried out different publishers, and I happen to like what Amazon produces. Joined by X322. Thank you for joining. We are talking about Kate Middleton is dead, and Taylor Swift is in the Bermuda Triangle right now, if this prophet is right. And a lot of these prophets are entertaining, interesting, but I happen to think that we're looking at the Texas sharpshooter fallacy in a number of these approaches that require gematria calculators to create the appearance that you're predicting a false flag. Really a strange way of approaching the news media, to think that it's real and you can predict it. Doomsayers. It's kind of like climate change prediction. It's tantamount to a doomsday cult. But my point of it is, none of these prophets seem to be aware of how fake this stuff is. Like, no, we're predicting fakery and gauging based on what the next plot twist is, how the masses of true believers are going to respond, because they are the elite. They are an extension of the power elite. The elite operate through their hive mind. So I like to know what is being downloaded into the hive mind at this time. And we have a pretty good idea, and we've been vindicated time and time again when you look at predictive programming. It's said by some not to exist. You got these leading anti-conspiracy theorists like Mike Rothschild who said there's no such thing as predictive programming. Well, that is blatantly wrong. The only question is, what is it? And I believe we have the best explanation. I believe it's just propaganda by repetition. The government putting messages into entertainment, saturating us, saturating the collective psyche with certain concepts and ideas so that we embrace it when it's presented on the screen, giving you the mental imagery to go along with the fakery so you can just imagine it. You don't have to look. I mean, you don't have to go look at the news. You don't have to find Twitter clips and videos of people eating each other in Haiti to believe it's real, because you've probably been saturated with a lot of cannibalism in the entertainment realm. You know what it looks like. It fills in the blanks for you. Oh yeah, by the way, and anyone awaiting hardback books, I did order a stack of those to fulfill all those orders that still have been unfulfilled. But the project is successful, I think. The whole idea of getting this book out there and making this I think the core concept behind what we're doing here, something to actually aggregate the parallel media around. You know, we need a Bible, you could say, or a foundational document, something we agree on. And it can't be, well, we all agree that this was a hoax and those don't exist. It can't be a list of agreements, because this is not a belief-based group. It's actually based on perspective and where you stand. And what we're doing here is we're emphasizing the schism between the realm where we stand and the world stage, as I refer to it. In fact, I created a new poster. In fact, I have two posters. One I've already discussed at length, but one of them is the screened world. But I created another one here because I think this is a great way to illustrate, you know, visually, just displaying where we are, where people you know are. So this poster, which you can get at ips.lol, it's a short link to my store, a closed system, hyperstition-based reality. And you have a red circle. And within the red circle is a blue circle. And this is labeled world stage. The blue circle is mainstream mediation. Now, mediation is a term that I appropriated for this, for the monolithic media presence, which is designed to, well, rather, it's the environment, the mental environment that the massified mind is meant to exist within. You know, like you have a fish, you put it in an aquarium full of water. Well, the world stage is meant for people who have been acclimated to that environment. I would say, in many ways, that even our public education and all this stuff is really all about getting you into a worldview. It's not about what they pack into your head. It's about where they put you in this box. And they put you square in the middle of this propaganda box. The middle is what I call mainstream mediation, but some people realize this is fake. Some people have functioning intuition, and they care enough to go deeper. But the way this thing works is before you escape this thing, you get caught up in the alternative mediation, and this would be the red circle. Now, the alternative mediation is a boundary that keeps people on the world stage. You veer left, you go woke. You veer right, you go red pill. One scapegoat's the capitalism, free market. One scapegoat's government. But they're pointing fingers at each other, and the two sides fight over the blue group in the middle. The woke want to wake up the blue pillars, or the dreamers. The truthers want to wake up the people who are still under the spell. They're all fighting to convert. And it's an interesting system. Again, I call this the closed system, and it's a hyperstition-based reality, which is essentially an echo chamber is one way of describing it, but it's a closed system which actually provides feedback. And it's a cybernetic system, is a feedback loop here where they can say something exists, and it's reiterated through the media, and you can interact with this construct and everybody believes it. It might as well just be real since everybody agrees. And these collectively agreed upon what would be superstitions become real, and real government policy, real world politics are then altered to accommodate this. So for example, the superstition of the MAGA hat, bowl cut, angry, disaffected white kid school shooter now exists. Now, we saw it in the movies. We've seen it in various ways, various horror movies they've given us of these, psychos going on rampages, and we get this construct. Well, they make it real. They put it on the news. But these disparate news stories aren't enough to make it real in this sense. So to make it real in the sense of a hyperstition, they have to make it something interactive where the hyper-realistic school shooting drills now involve everyone on a personal level. Anybody with kids, or if you're in school, it's now part of the curriculum to all engage in this ritual drama. And in some schools, they don't notify you that there's going to be a drill. And they use simunitions, so it sounds and it looks real. My point being, they make these superstitions real. And what characterizes the world stage are its hyperstitions, the things that they agree upon as real. This is why I often describe the mass media globally as the world state's church, and that what it actually propagates is a religious paradigm. And I think that's an accurate way of describing it. Now, at the bottom of this poster, it says off-world stage, and these would be those who are skeptical of mainstream and alternative, non-believers, agnostics, those aware of media fakery. Now, the purpose of this poster is just to display that what differentiates those of us who are skeptics of media and those who aren't is that those who aren't are just true believers because they accept the authority of the screen, but more importantly, the self-described truthers and the self-described woke are further from the truth than the mainstreamers. There's no awakening within the world stage. It's essentially it's a alternate reality game. It's like entering into a religious cult where you're told everybody else is evil, so now you're in a world of good and evil, and that's not reality. But for the cult believers, it is. And what I'm saying here is that the world stage offers this what I call bifurcated psy-war, but it is in fact war. All this talk about it's going to be civil war, World War III, it's so repetitive. It's going to be World War III next, and we get bored of that. It's going to be civil war. We get bored of this. Back to World War III hype. My point of it is, we're already in this world war, and I think it's about the war inside your head and you accepting the model of the world that they've given us, the consensus view, puts you in a state of war because it's automatically putting you into cognitive dissonance to accept it because it is not the territory. It diverges in too many ways and we're just trained to ignore it. And I'm not talking about shape. I'm not talking about worldview here. I'm talking about the selective interpretation that we are given versus the real thing. And we are all active participants in what is tantamount to an actor-driven reality. We're extras for the most part. Moving on here. Pete Tripper said, I wish we didn't have to talk about Taylor Swift. Yeah, I'm only bringing it up because some people have this. I have this, I guess I share this morbid hope that maybe they'll disappear into the Bermuda Triangle. I don't even care about Kate Middleton. But it's trending in the news right now along with the word hoax. And what it comes down to is photo manipulation. She got caught with some pretty bad psyop, kind of a faux pas, but hardly worth mentioning. And I'm pretty sure they're going to have a rational explanation for it. But let's get back to the main topics here. Illusion Warfare said, you truly comprehend, and you can call on this if this is a topic you find interesting. You truly comprehend the allegory of Plato's cave in regards to this reality, then it becomes a moral dilemma. Do you try and show the others the exit door, or do you go through the exit yourself and enjoy your life in the sun? That's an interesting question, because the thing I pointed out on the poster is that there's this tendency with the woke and the truthers to want to wake up everybody in the cave. But my point being is that they're not truly exiting the cave. Exiting the cave is more complex than that. It's actually, I think it's designed this way though. It's designed because it keeps people thinking that they have a cause or a purpose to fighting, and that being in the InfoWar is inherently virtuous or something. And I'm anti-war, and that includes InfoWar. I'm not participating. I'm not trying to win. And I'm not voting necessarily. I mean, I'm not participating in that. and maybe to be ironic, but I considered voting for Biden and even advocating for him just because the entrenched pattern that has been put out there that if you're not with the mainstream media and you're not woke and you see through the fake news, you must therefore vote for Donald Trump. And I'm like, how did the GOP just grab all the conspiracy theorists out there and turn them into a voting bloc? Like, how did that ever happen? And there's no way to resist that. Not voting is kind of a resistance, but I thought, well, maybe if I vote for Biden, just to be the only, quote, truther on the internet voting for Biden. There is no one out there who knows NASA lies that will vote for Biden. There's no one out there who knows all the fake news is fake will vote for Biden, but they will vote for Trump because of whatever you want to call it, the way they dog whistled and pandered to the conspiracy crowd with the whole deep state stuff. But I might vote for Biden. And you know what? Something else. Maybe I should vote for him just because his son Hunter Biden and I have a common enemy. In fact, the IPS has an ally in Hunter Biden, weirdly enough. All right, we're joined by Ears Up, Salty Siren. Thank you for joining. Yeah, if you want to call in, do you want to wake the people up? I'm like, no, not at all. Emphatically no. Leave Normieville alone. Something to look forward to. There's a new Omen movie coming out. This is the one with Damien Thorne. But in terms of predictive programming, it's a reference to Donald Trump. Fascinating. The new one comes out on April the 5th. And Michael in Truth says, isn't it strange that the 119-minute long prequel to the original Omen comes out on 4/5? The Omen movies are about the Antichrist named DT, Damien Thorne, is the big event on 4/4 and 4/5 at Trump's National Doral, Miami. So we have a few prophecies. One, we have the world-ending stuff with the eclipse on 4/8, but on 4/4/4/5, there's some thinking that Trump's going to get it. I'm only highlighting these because I've been following these various threads, and I think I've figured out how it works. And if nothing happens on April the 8th, I'm going to block anybody with a gematria calculator if they're using it to make predictions and not taking account for those times that they are wrong. So that's fine if you're making predictions and you're wrong and you say, well, this is how I got it wrong. But to just move on as though you're not using a bad approach, that's not really forgivable. Okay, let me play this. This is something about the April 8th eclipse. Something about an earthquake. Plot twist.
National Guards in Oklahoma.
Okay, she says National Guards in Oklahoma during an eclipse. I'm sorry, this is a TikToker. Very dramatic background music. But yes, it's true. National Guard in the subways in New York. National Guard preparing for the eclipse.
During an eclipse. Oh, this is not the eclipse that they are there for. This is the earthquake.
Okay, this person seems pharmacated. Medicated. This person is hardly even there. So we'll take them seriously. Unbelievable. This TikTok stuff. You saw that Katie Britt give her response to the State of the Union and everybody laughed at it. I saw it and I was like, this is your typical TikToker. This is how TikTokers produce content. They do these bites and they do a lot of emoting, and to me I just feel like they make it about their face more than the content. But she's talking about an earthquake.
I know. You haven't heard anything about an earthquake or anything like that. I know.
Okay, I'm sorry about this. I apologize in advance
You haven't heard anything.
whenever I play these TikTok vids because I know how terrible they are. But she says, I hope this reaches as many of you as possible. I love you. I've never been wrong, but I hope I'm wrong this time. So there's going to be an earthquake. I guess that's it. Not very compelling evidence. Caught on hot mic, Donald Trump says that he wants people to stand up at attention for him, the way they do for Kim Jong-un.
Hey, he's the head of a country, and I mean, he is the strong head. Don't let anyone think anything different. Right. He speaks and his people sit up at attention. I want my people to do the same. Well,
he wants his people to do the same. Do you stand up at attention when Trump gets in the room? Do people want to? I think they do. A lot of them are about this leader worship, the cult of personality, and he and Kim Jong-un have that in common. Now, do I believe this is a hot mic? No. No, this is a scripted reality TV show line. I don't think anything there is an accident. I don't think there are any hot mics. Yesterday we talked about satellites burning up in the atmosphere, weakening the Earth's magnetic field and stripping away the atmosphere. Again, dead satellites, and this is being pointed at Elon Musk, richest man in the world, destroying our commons in outer space and in cyberspace at the same time with mind junk and space junk. I think the whole space thing is all just allegory, because you have to think about it. What does it matter? Well, you have one American ruining it for the whole world. Why? Because he's so rich. So there's a problem right there. Well, what's up with Twitter X? Well, you got one American, all the money in the world, and what does he do? He opens it up to a bunch of junk that's going to create war on Earth. It's going to destroy our cyberspace's atmosphere. It's going to destroy our internet, our cohesion, because disease X, all the hate mind viruses that he's releasing. But we talked about that yesterday, as well as this concept of hyperstition, which I think explains quite a lot about how the world works today. Moving on. Minds.com/Infinite Plane Society. Got a comment from Sci Obstacles. He says, quick story. I got rear-ended by a Tesla at a stoplight. The car drove itself into the back of my Explorer. I got out and I asked her, did the car start driving by itself? I saw that it did out of my rearview mirror. And she was panicked and she said, quote, yes, it drove by itself. I then said I saw it. And it did little damage, so it wasn't worth reporting. Quote, lady, the guy who builds these cars, I told her, is faking space. Yes, you heard me, he's faking space. Get rid of this thing, it's a piece of junk. She begged me that she would call the police and admit all fault, and I said, sorry, my insurance rates will go up. No thanks, I'm leaving. So Sci Obstacles was directly impacted by one of Elon Musk's, this is right out of Leave the World Behind, one of his Teslas. And maybe that's it. Maybe you put out a note. You know, IPS listeners, if you get near a Tesla, it might go into autopilot. Made an attempt on him. But interesting that he took that opportunity to tell her that the guy's faking space. Hopefully she looks into it. You know, that reminds me, I need to create some business cards with QR codes and stuff and relevant links, because there you do have these real world conversations with people, and it seems like these would be good opportunities to bring people into the fold here, at least for a few moments to listen and consider what we're saying. You know, the fact that they're faking space is difficult to overstate the significance of it, what it actually does, what it has done. But that's almost too much for some people to understand and grasp. When you just say, oh, they're faking space, what does it mean? We're not saying space doesn't exist in the sense that they describe it, we don't know. I mean, up is up, but the question is space something that surrounds Earth as a discrete object in all directions, or are we at the bottom of this thing? Maybe we're at the bottom of the cosmic barrel. Let me play this clip, so if you missed it, this is Donald Trump in his own words talking about how this country will be a bloodbath.
it's going to be a bloodbath.
Now, they're saying he threatens a bloodbath.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath.
Okay, well, again, that soundbite, ill-advised, obviously taken out of context, but what is the context for that? Check this out. National Guard will be at the eclipse with NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical. They're saying you need 2 weeks of food. Fill up the fuel in all your vehicles. The communications may be overloaded, and they're canceling school. P. Trippa says, I hate speculative predictions. Are they accurate? Maybe. Could it influence the realm to go a certain direction? Definitely. Your earthquake clip is propaganda to me. Yeah, I think it's kind of strange. We see this in TikTok with a lot of events where you don't get any direct eyewitnesses, but it's saturated with these rumor mongers. That's what I call them. And a lot of them are like, yeah, there were children who were supposed to come home from school and it didn't happen, and then there were the fires. It's like these strangers at the side of the road in their cars. It almost seems like gigs, like they're on OfferUp or Fiverr. I'm like, yeah, just pull over in your car and cry for the missing Maui kids and talk about direct energy weapons. John Smith says Kate Middleton died 5 years ago during COVID. What you've been seen since then are clones and AI images. Look, Occam's razor, I would say that clones don't exist in that sense. However, it is an admitted fact. This is declassified. The CIA director disguised for 27 years, Jonah Mendez, specifically talked about the fact that they have hyper-realistic masks so good that you could have 6 Saddam Husseins in the room and nobody would know which one is the real Saddam Hussein, which means they wouldn't need clones. They wouldn't even need AI images. They just need somebody with a mask. And I think all this talk about deepfakes, digital deepfakes, AI has been used to mask the reality of hyper-realistic masks and bodysuits. Let's play this clip here. This is about the National Guard being brought out for the eclipse.
Now, for the solar eclipse, this article today was released in an Oklahoma newspaper saying that they will have guardsmen present in McCurtain County for the solar eclipse. But things get much weirder. The 22 members of an elite chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear unit will be housed in Broken Bow, in addition to 110 to 150 Oklahoma Highway Patrol troopers. They're also urging residents to stock up with 1 to 2 weeks of food in advance of the event and to have full fuel tanks.
All right, there you go. A little bit of solar eclipse fear mongering. John Smith says clones and masks are the same thing. No, they're not. One of them is known to exist. They use them in the movies, and we have seen them. The other, we don't have any evidence for. So these are not equal claims. If you're going to say Kate Middleton's a clone, first prove clones exist. But we know about body doubles. Those are well known. In fact, we've seen body doubles. Laura Loomer happened to expose a body double of Kamala Harris. But what we're looking at here, the invention of the bloodbath hoax, and it's all about context. And this just shows you how, without even using any real deepfake technology, just simple context. This way I always say, it's the worldview that I described, the worldview they give us, isn't always telling us what to think, but it's about the selectivity. So NBC News, Trump says there will be a bloodbath if he loses the election. CBS News, in Ohio rally, Trump says there will be a bloodbath if he loses. Rolling Stone, they all run with it. And this is a tactic. They're not dumb. The people who write these stories, they know that they can get this out and it will influence things. But times are changing and there's now an ability for people to respond to it real time. Although again, it's kind of strange that he's calling for a bloodbath and the people who want the bloodbath aren't enthused about it, but they're saying that no, they're misrepresenting him. All right, continuing. I watched this strange movie the other night, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, something like that. And there was a conversation in the movie about time and cycles of time that one can break with intentional decisions, with choices that we make. I mentioned this the other night, and fascinatingly, so I'm looking at this movie, which is about a labyrinth, or like the labyrinth as a metaphor for the choices that we make. And I was watching this movie because of my discussions previously. Someone had said, hey, you need to check out this movie, because I was talking about transurfing reality, which is essentially about the same thing. And during this time, I'm watching a movie about Griselda, the mafia boss, and one of the characters is talking about time and linear time and how it appears to be a straight line, but it's not. It's a circle. You can break it if you know how. And in his car, he has a copy of a book called Labyrinths, which I look up. My point is, I'm reading this book about labyrinths, and he uses labyrinths as a metaphor for life and choices that we make. And this is, of course, followed by me watching Everything Everywhere All at Once and the audiobook Transurfing Reality I just completed. So I'm thinking about the stuff, the labyrinths, and the one thing I really hadn't thought about was the Minotaur in the labyrinth, because that's an essential part of the story. But the concept of the labyrinth has been kind of saturating my life for the last couple of months, and I was thinking about this labyrinth concept and what it means, and I watched some random movie the other night, and it's about some psychopath who moves into this mansion and basically does a lot of bad things. But the movie happens to end in a labyrinth at the base of a statue of the Minotaur. So I'm putting this all together finally. I'm like, okay, I've been looking at this labyrinth thing. What the hell is this Minotaur? And I go out for a drive, and the first car in front of me, it's got this license plate that stood out to me because it was just kind of odd. It was the letters ID, id. And in my research, I just happened to be coming across a number of articles from various Jungian psychologists and others who describe the Minotaur itself in the labyrinth as a symbol of the id and these uncontrolled aspects of the subconscious. Just kind of a side note there, kind of building on this chain of synchronicities. But weirdly enough, I mean, I was having these reoccurring themes or instances of this Minotaur showing up in the strangest places. Tweets. I'm reading a book by Christopher Hitchens, and he mentioned something about Crete. So I'm having all these synchronicities that are just kind of piling up, and I'm like, what is this thing with the labyrinth? And again, haven't quite figured it all out, but I just pick up on these patterns at times. All right, we are back here. There's a link in the chat for joining the Parallel Media on X. We're kind of defining this space outside of the alt media, and we have to really break away from it. It's a dump. The Ascending Ancient says, did she get Diana? We're waiting to see who's going to get Diana, Swift or Middleton, or both, or none. Let me play this clip. This is a digital soldier who can go no further. This is my last post on social media. Punish Dem 1776. This was an amazing journey. I met many wonderful people. And I've seen a lot of these things. A lot of these QAnon digital soldiers are giving up. He said, unfortunately, this journey has destroyed my personal life. I appreciate all those who have tirelessly fought with me to make America great again and to expose the corruption. I pray you all keep kicking ass. Now, by kicking ass, he means doom scrolling and retweeting with thumbs ups and American flag emojis. He says, I feel like I've done all I could, and my body and soul cannot handle any more. I pray I see this country come through and destroy the evil we exposed. For those who have been doing this for a while understand, it places a burden on your soul, and I wouldn't wish this torture on anyone. He's tortured by what he has seen on Twitter. Whoever I've helped in this movement, I hope you continue to fight. Never surrender to the evil. Give them hell. Now, why is this guy quitting? He says, I must focus now on my personal journey. You've all kept me alive, and I'm honored to be a part of this. But now it's time to invest in what little future I have left. Godspeed, the Punisher. So the Punisher, 1776, is no longer going to be retweeting hopium-laden, recycled, bad Q drops. Another casualty of the meme war. They take themselves so seriously, by the way, if you haven't noticed. Robert Bell says Kubrick liked the Minotaur. The movie, or the series rather, called Westworld, has this reoccurring theme of a labyrinth. And the labyrinth is kind of a key to figuring the whole thing out. All right, moving on. I put links to some of these books on my minds.com, by the way. Flat Earthers are being called out by Fight the Flat Earth still because of that SpaceX launch, which isn't any more or less impressive by any of the previous launches. Is anybody here going to be in the path of totality for the upcoming eclipse? This thing has been hyped up for about 8 years. It's been hyped up since 2017, 7 years. It's been looked at as some kind of signifier of things to come, and I'm kind of getting the sense that, like everything else, it's just going to be another nothing burger. Am I jaded? Aries 1 says, shout out to the lurkers out there. Oh yes, we love our lurkers. Not everybody can comment. A lot of people are away from keyboard, and that's fine. I appreciate those of you who do comment and add to everything. We've been talking about the falling planes, and a lot of the falling plane stuff is just hype, but it's being reported. Eclipse doom mongering, the subway psyop, mind junk, space junk, gloating glurfs, Ryan Garcia knows who killed Tupac, and I think he's been silenced. And then, of course, we ask the question, do you wake up the sleepers? Do you wake up the people in the normieverse who don't care? Like, should that be a focus? The new series the new series Fallout's coming out here soon, called Vault 33, or that's the place where it takes place. Vault 33 was once Santa Monica, and it's located next to the Santa Monica Pier. But Vault 33, Fallout, these are all things that are consistent with the recent rhetoric of mushroom clouds, Oppenheimer, the nuke, because that would be the thing. And one thing about radioactive fallout is I don't think it would be easy to politicize. Like, I can understand resisting lockdowns if you don't believe in whatever they're saying is out there. But fallout would be something that you wouldn't be able to so easily dismiss as actually existing. It would actually be less likely that you could politicize a resistance to the countermeasures. I think you'd have fuller compliance. The Ascending Ancient says, so when it comes to the solar eclipse, I believe it's a gift of our Creator to cleanse our beingness. Erica Creech says, I'm driving to the totality area. Well, another place where it's conspicuously, I think, referenced is Leave the World Behind. In Leave the World Behind, they make multiple references to this poster that shows America, and it's basically like America with a big X through it, like ominously red on two of the quadrants. And it's a list, a compendium of America's crimes that have yet to be atoned for, just written all over it. But it's clearly a big X. And at one point, it's upside down. So I look at that as predictive programming for the eclipse. And then there are two areas, in the movie itself. I think we've been discussing this movie, and others have as well, the predictive programming, but there are a couple of other areas where it seems like there would be direct tie-ins to the eclipse, like Matthew Perry, for example, being a huge part of the movie Friends. Matthew Perry dying on a lunar eclipse, and his character's birthday being on 4/8, the eclipse, and his death involved drowning. The movie had references to a flood. So there's some kind of interesting connection here. And of course, Leave the World Behind is a perfect anagram for Behold the End War Live. Because I think that when they do this, we will all be locked down already. I think they might need to lock us down to get us in front of the screens and to prevent any eyewitnesses from spoiling the psyop. The Ascending Ancient says, from an energetic standpoint, 2017 people reported their solar system and batteries being... I'll need clarification on that. But 2017, some said, was the beginning of the tribulation. Now, I'm not a believer in any of this stuff, in prophecy, but I'm interested in eschatology and this new eschatology. And the way I think it works is largely based on making predictions and tying them to dates, and then finding all the verses that match it first. And then once you get a group and you create a compelling narrative, you can almost make anything fit. And when people look at our conversations about predictive programming, they would be mistaken if they think that's what we're doing. That's not our methodology. We're not using gematria calculators and counting dates. We're not trying to fit anything into place. We're just looking at it as it is reported. Kevin Mooring says Waco is in the totality. Oh yeah, okay, Waco. And Waco, of course, American Apocalypse was streaming on Netflix the night before Trump kicked off his campaign in Waco. No coincidences there. By the way, one other reason to follow me on X, I am putting all of the archives up there. So it's another backup. Again, if you go to X, you'll get the archives and a bunch of articles that I'm writing that are all related to what we're talking about. Yesterday, again, we were talking about this space junk, mind junk correlation, all tied together. This thing with taking clips out of context, this is typical for a political year. The bloodbath thing, the hysteria around it has caused hoax to go trending on Twitter. But anyway, this is basically an example of how it doesn't matter anymore. Nothing has any more weight than anything else. It's almost like people don't care anymore about the possibility of getting nuked or the possibility of Taylor Swift making an appearance and influencing the election. It's like these things are just interchangeable. Nothing's serious anymore, I guess is what I could say here. Pete Ripa says, a really cool corner of the internet, I found that NASA's tracking of solar eclipses has 0.0% origination from current technology, but from ancient Roman or ancient Greek data. Pretty cool. Fascinating. All right, I'm going to open up phones here, 505-349-0420. Do any of you have an inner monologue? This is an article that came out the other day. What is it like living without an inner monologue? A look at the inner experience and the science behind it. Olivia Rivera, 22, says she doesn't have an inner monologue. She figured it out this year when her coworkers were talking about a viral blog post. I remember this going around and people suddenly asking, do you have one? Suggesting that NPCs don't. That NPCs don't have any kind of inner monologue. Interesting question. See, I don't know if I do. Like, maybe I do, but like I don't think it's like words in a stream that I follow, but it's more like just vague impressions that aren't even put into words yet, not even condensed yet. So I would say I don't have an inner monologue necessarily. Maybe if I'm triggered or angry about something, I guess that would be the only point where I'm not verbalizing something, but no, for the most part, I don't think I have one. And I'm wondering, could I be an NPC? Anyway, I'm interested in other people's opinions on this because I don't think I have an inner monologue. Like when no one is in the room, when I'm alone, it's just peace and quiet. Shannon Jones says, mine won't shut up. Mizelle says, must be nice not to hear an inner monologue. Yeah, I'm going to have to observe it more because thinking about this, I don't know if I have one, which means I could be remote controlled. I might be one of those organic portals. Are you familiar with that concept? Long before I heard of NPCs, non-playing characters, or the idea that some people are just, basically programs running on autopilot, I'd come across some obscure website, and it was about something called, I think it said hyperdimensional warfare. But it described this scenario where most of the people aren't here, that like 95% have already been vacated, and that the remaining 5% are more or less the target of this spiritual war. And it's a war about preventing sentient beings from ascending, locking them down into the material realm, and that most of the people you interact with are actually just remote operated manipulators. What this collection of websites called organic portals. I'll see if I can find the website. It sounds like science fiction, but it talks about, this whole thing was talking about the manipulation of reality and synchronicity itself. Really fascinating. Okay, here's a couple of articles about it. Strange rabbit trail to go through. NPCs, organic portals and mirrors. Soulless humans by design. How do you know anything about organic portals and souls? Yeah, this is fascinating stuff. Matrix agents. Organic portals comprise approximately half the human population, with the other half mostly consisting of souled humans. And it goes on, this whole series, it goes deep. A definition of a souled human and an organic portal. So the organic portal, it says here, exists among all known races with unequal distribution among them. While souled human beings have divine sparks of consciousness that give them the ability of individual self-awareness, the organic portals lack the spark and are only dimly conscious in comparison. They belong to an animal-like group soul that incarnates collectively rather than individually. So that's fascinating there, that there's like two types of people. It goes on to say, physically, the two races are virtually indistinguishable. Unlike souled humans, OPs, their terminology, develop independently of soul pressures or karmic burdens. Fascinating. Now it goes on to describe metaphysically their differences between souled humans and non-souled, and it apparently says that they operate at the lower chakra levels only, and they don't have the higher centers. And it goes on further because it gets a little ominous here. Manipulation of souled humans. These portals are human chameleons. When activated to reel in a souled person for manipulation purposes, they adjust themselves based on the soul profile and behavior of the target, intellectual calculation, and soul emulation. So what it describes here is that this other race of beings who do not have higher levels of awareness, who are basically predatory in a sense, are targeting those who have souls, and their whole objective is control. And it's really a fascinating thing because it talks about how they're literally feeding off of your emotional energy, and it's all about manipulation in games to turn you into a Truman-like robotoid, an NPC yourself. Anyway, this is a deep trail to go down. I've read all this stuff. I think it's really intriguing, but it's kind of an update on, I think you call it Manichaeanism, the idea of like black and white, duality, good versus evil, as being this world being in fact a spiritual battlefield. And so of course you have this concept of this dualism, and this makes perfect sense, that you have those who are beings of light and those who are beings of darkness, and the beings of darkness are not fully human in the sense that we would know them, but that they are equally distributed throughout the entire plane. I mean, it goes on to say, what is required to discern them? Intuition, or quote, gut instinct, is a glimpsed emotional message from one's higher emotional center, the center that links up to the higher self. Pure intuition never fails, because the higher self knows objective truth. The better honed one's intuition, the more easily one can identify which individuals deserve scrutiny. Intuition is a gut instinct and it feels like a tug at one's heart and mind. Anyway, it goes on to describe how one would discern these. It's maddening. I mean, if you took this literally, I just look at this as a possible explanation. Linda Curtis says, I think Armin Ra explains this well. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you could replace the OP, the organic portal concept, with sociopaths or psychopaths or empathy deficient, problematic people who do seem to respond and act in this way. And that's why I think this is interesting, because you could easily find this believable. You could diagnose people as NPCs perhaps. But this is, again, an update on an older concept. The idea, of course, that the physical realm is just the facade of something that's much deeper. And I don't find it hard to believe. Like, I know we're supposed to believe that everything's meaningless. And look, I think moral relativists are disgusting and lazy. I hear people who are morally relativistic who suggest that there is no bad or good, there's no innocent, and We're all asking for it when we get here for karmic reasons. It's just nonsense. The idea that there is no absolute evil or good or that innocence doesn't matter. Like, I don't think that's the case. And I do think that there may be something to this concept of light versus dark, and darkness rules this place here at the bottom of the barrel. It makes sense that it would have its agenda specifically to cut one off of intuition or any kind of sense of meaning or any kind of sense of a harmonious connection between the individual and the macrocosm. The idea that you're somehow connected to the universe, not just on it. You're not just an involved ape on a rock falling through the abyss, but maybe there's some deeper level of connection. Like, that's not supposed to be taken seriously. However, if you take into account this other purpose to it all, it makes a lot more sense, in my opinion. Erica Creech says, I dialogue when I read the Bible, otherwise I'm quiet inside too. Yeah, maybe my inner monologue stopped. Like, maybe I've said everything I needed to say, inside. Maybe I'm not really in a really challenging place right now, where maybe there's nothing that really needs to go on. Maybe I'm like Free Guy before he wakes up. Have I habituated myself to an NPC life where maybe there's just not a lot of conflict and I don't have to think very much? Which is freeing. But I don't think I have an internal dialogue, but it might be because maybe it speaks too fast or it's not lingual. Maybe it's, again, impressions. All right, let's move on here. If you want to call in, if you have an inner monologue, I'd like to know. If you try to wake up your neighbors with the truth, we want to know. Or if you just want to let them sleep, that's fine too. Do you know any organic portals, NPCs? Are you an NPC? Are you possibly one of these, collectively incarnated, hive-minded, I guess, matrix agents? Mizell says, you don't talk to yourself or think to yourself in your head. No, I kind of don't. But you know what I do? I journal a lot. I write a lot. I'm consistently writing. So if I think of something, I write it down. I'm constantly, even when I'm driving, I have a notebook and a pen. I don't even have to look at it. I just prepared to write. Because a lot of the times, the idea is just a few words, and then it jogs an entire paragraph or two. And if I don't write it down, I lose it. But I'm not really conversing with myself. It's just like the stuff kind of bubbles up. Wisdom Reigns says, chaos is the program, nothingness is worship, coincidence is never questioned. Well, there are coincidences, obviously, but there are differences between coincidences and meaningful coincidences. So synchronicity is distinct from a mere coincidence because it includes the observer and what's going on in the observer's mind at that moment. And I have many of these synchronistic occurrences, and a lot of them are things that I don't really fully understand until after. Like I mentioned, I see graffiti IM, then I see a car, license plate John 146. I didn't know what John 146 was. Bible verse, I am the way. So these things are sometimes indicative of some kind of foreknowledge or some kind of knowledge that I don't have that I have to arrive at, but it's implied that whatever is causing me to notice it, I don't know how to explain it other than, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Like information itself somehow has some attractive, or yeah, I guess you could call it that. It attracts that person seeking it in some way. But my point of it is, it's outside of time and space. These synchronistic events. They don't follow linear causality in the usual way. Now, I've had another one as well. I mean, and a lot of times, look, I think it has everything to do with intention, which is why I maintain that what the dominant scientism paradigm does is it takes us out of a cybernetic system where we matter, where we're an intrinsic part of it. It turns you into an object, but you're not in any way connected on these quote higher levels, as in the spiritual, whatever you want to call it. But the way that we're trained to look at things, of course, would rule this stuff out. But I have just too many examples of where it seems like intention itself generates a response from the universe. You know what people call prayer, for example. God's answering prayers, magic. It's not that the universe is immediately responsive to your will, like a baby crying and the mother comes. It's not like that at all. But I think it's more about the concentrated intentionality of it all, and the communication, the focus, but also the meaning of the communication, the intrinsic meaning. And it's about meaningfulness and intention, which somehow again creates that response. The best way I can describe it is echolocation. Like if you look at it as maybe the universe doesn't exist the way they say it does, but that it comes into existence as we experience it, and all possibilities are equal distant from where you are right now, but it doesn't look that way because we just tend to go in a straight line according to habit, tradition, peer pressure. But that you can break the appearance of this linear causality and you can experience what you would call synchronicity. And I liken it to echolocation. The bat sends a signal into the dark, and then the signal bounces back, and it uses that to navigate to find the path. But the signal is what I'm correlating to the intention that's projected into the future. But recently I was describing this because I had a moment where I'm writing about intention and the idea of what you put out into the world and how it reflects back. And I was actually thinking about intentionally not creating a lot of collateral damage, because I feel like I can be a bad influence, or I could be potentially, and I don't want to necessarily. So I'm running this concept through my mind, and I see goodwill, and goodwill, good intentions, is sort of insinuated there. So on the random, and randomness plays a huge part in this, I go into the goodwill and I see a mirror, and the frame says, live, love, laugh. Which, again, I'm talking about intention, projections, and I'm actually writing a paragraph about mirrors in particular. So I look at the mirror, and the mirror, goodwill, good intention, live, love, laugh. And that is a slight coincidence, maybe a bit synchronistic, but then the music on the radio is a song called Live, Love, and Laugh, like what's on the frame of the painting. And so I had never heard that song before. It's by Donovan Frankenreiter. Again, I had never heard the song Live, Love, Laughter, but it coincided with me looking at the mirror, with the frame, with those words. So it all aligned in a very meaningful way. But it's so clear in its messaging that I liken it to echolocation, because it's a guidance. Wisdom Rain says, I like it. Bats in Plato's cave. Yes, exactly. And the other part of it too is I like to think of the yet to be created / experienced universe as perhaps what they describe as dark matter. It's the unknown, the darkness of the cave. So sending the signals, sending sentience, light into the dark. And I think that's what we are. That soul is light going into matter. And this is the principal struggle between light and dark. Does the light lose its sense of its origin up above and lose itself in the muck, or not? And it does, I believe, if it gets entrained to the cycles and gets locked up in the endless cycles and doesn't break that circle. And you don't break that circle without the intentionality of making decisions. And this is where the concept of labyrinth comes into this, because all these movies I referenced recently, the books I've been referencing, Transurfing Reality, Griselda, Labyrinths by Jorge Borges, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, they all bring up the same exact concept. They even use the same terminology about the circle that has to be broken, and the thing that breaks the circle is you making a conscious choice that diverges from the established pattern set for you. And this was what the theme of Free Guy was. He had to break the program to cease being an NPC, to become a playing character. And the difference, of course, non-playing and playing. One is actively engaged, and the active engagement the active engagement of the individual will is what is being inferred here. All right, let me go through some comments. Now, if you haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's a pretty insane movie, but it describes, I don't even know if they use the word labyrinth, but it shows this like a map of a person in reality and all the different realities they live in simultaneously, and how to access these different possibilities. And it looks like a maze, like a labyrinth. But fascinatingly, the way to access one of these other possibilities usually involved doing something highly improbable, something so unusual, something so out of the ordinary that it breaks the cycle. So here you are on this timeline, and it's a trap. There's something to avoid. So to get out of it, this person has to do something that opens up a realm of possibility where they're freed from that condition. And the things that they do are obvious or often absurd or nonsensical, which, if you think about it, any kind of prayer or any kind of sorcery, any kind of gesture, or even charms, any of these things would fall into the category of irrational, absurd, superstition. But the point of it suggested in this movie, and I think this might be the case, is that part of breaking the cycle is, of course, diverging. And the movie, of course, had many examples of this. And Everything Everywhere All at Once also, I think, confronts this notion that I've been sort of bringing up here too, that like I don't fall for the straw man thing. I'm not a flat earther. I question NASA, but like I'm way worse than that. Like I question if the universe even exists as they describe it, or as it's described until it's experienced, and that sounds obviously wrong scientifically speaking, or does it? Because how do you fit synchronicity into the universe as described? Which implies that the observers are somehow co-creators or somehow an influence in what is experienced, and that's not supposed to be. Mango Penguin says, is this a repeat? Yes. Yes, everything's a repeat. This is the 6th time. Is that what it was in the Matrix? This is the 6th version. All right, this has been great. I'm going to be sending out copies of books. So again, if you ordered a copy of the hardback, expect tracking in your mailbox, in your inboxes. I'll be posting that here shortly. We're still waiting for news on Kate Middleton. Hope she's okay. Taylor Swift, we hope she disappeared into the Bermuda Triangle. Well, some people do. We're also looking at a lot of doom mongering for a coming eclipse, which is somehow going to bring about the end of the world on 4/8, or not. We'll see. If it doesn't, we are going to block a lot of doomsayers from our feeds. So it'll be fascinating to see how this goes, because I think I'm right about this, but I'm willing to be wrong. If something starts, if the end of the world officially kicks off on 4/8, I will say, okay, I was wrong. But if nothing happens, I think it's going to be safe to say that we're looking at the Texas sharpshooter fallacy being employed by truthers wrongly, maybe with good intentions. Like, hey, I think you guys might want to know Armageddon starts on Tuesday. Like, I understand you want to warn people there's a wolf coming, but how many times can you cry wolf, get it wrong, cash in on the clicks, and not own up to being wrong? All right, this is One-Eyed Jack and the Shells. Death to the ball. Nothing burgers on 4/8. We'll look forward to that, or possibly eating my words here. Aries 1 says TikTok banned and T Swift missing. God is real. Mango says Pepe for president. Well, no president can save you, because the president is a character on the world stage. Pope Elon, the Martian Pope, can't save you because Mars is fake. They'll send you to the gulags beneath Beijing, some deep underground Mars base. And you may even know it's fake because their special effects are terrible, but if you say anything, they'll torture you. So you're going to be forced to convert to Martian whether you believe it or not. All right, this has been great. Happy St. Patrick's Day. This is Death to the Ball.
It's death to the ball. It's death to the ball. It's death to the ball. We're seeking death to the ball. Death to the ball. We are seeking.